folks. So Kingston's chronic traffic congestion has become a growing concern, and the NWA attributes much of the problem to Jamaica's heavy reliance on single-occupant vehicles. Joining us to discuss how this poses a challenge for city mobility and share potential solutions to this problem are Mrs. Doreen Duncan, Executive Director of City Planner and founder of Island City Labs, and Mr. Stephen Shaw, Communication and Customer Services at the National Works Agency, and our co-host here on Style.
I feel like Stephen, Jesus Christ. Stephen was sorry for your moral, but good morning, friend.
To you both. Morning to you both.
Good morning.
Doreen, let me start with you. Do you agree that it is single occupancy?
I think that is just one piece of it. I think the way that we do transportation planning and transportation policy is really flawed. We do overly rely on individual people having individual cars and solving their own transportation issues that way. No country, as the head of NWA said, no country who has a well-established and efficient transportation system does it that way. It has to include mass transportation. There's no way around it. And I think we may disagree on a couple other aspects of it. I'm sure we'll get into that. But I completely agree. Mass transportation is essential to reducing congestion, and there's really no other way around it.
You said flaws in transportation policy. And what else? Transportation?
Planning overall.
Planning. Break that down for me.
Sure. So the way that we do policy and planning, policy informs the infrastructure, right? So where do we invest money, right? And so what you've been seeing over the past 10, 15 years is a policy that is focused on cars, individual people owning cars. And one of the examples of that is the amount of billions of dollars that we're spending on widening roads, right? And I'm sure Stephen will disagree with me here, but that in and of itself is not a success. That is not a solution to solving traffic. And I think if it was, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And the conversation that happened at the PAC a couple of days ago wouldn't have happened, right? So it's proven that it's not a solution itself. And so focusing on mass transportation and funding and supporting JUTC, not just, a couple millions here and there, but advantaging JUTC is really essential to solving congestion.
Stephen Shaw, do you disagree?
Yes.
She said, I'm sure Stephen will disagree with me here, but weigh in, Stephen.
Well, she has a point in terms of mass transit and transport. Really, we have been saying that for a long time. But if you look at the issues from a demand and supply perspective, what we have are increased demand, as we do everywhere else. If you look at Florida, for example, I visited Florida 15 years ago, maybe nearly 20 years ago, and visited there recently, and you would have seen significant changes. Why is it that they have been expanding their roads? Because the demand is greater, supply is also greater, and so you look to balance it out. In our case, we have looked to widen roads, yes, and we have also, because we have that responsibility to ensure that persons are able to get around, and we do have plans to widen other roads, but recognizing that the issue is not singular. It is not just about driving motor vehicles and one person owning 5 cars, and you up, skip, and jump out of whichever one you want to drive at a particular time. There are other issues at play, and to the extent that we can influence those, we do try.
What are those issues, Steve, before you move? What are those issues? Is this about, infrastructure?
Cultural issues. We cultural issues. We don't have a likeness really for buses. If you leave Kingston and you go, let us say, to Montego Bay, which is also congested, you find a lot of taxis. You don't find persons willing to take mass transport. We like to, wherever it is that we're exiting a vehicle, we want to be set down right there. We're not into the thing of walking from halfway tree down to Maxfield Avenue, you want something to drop you exactly where it is that you're going. And so buses have designated stops, notwithstanding the way some of our bus operators function, where you stop any and everywhere to pick up or to set down
and
passengers.
Yeah.
So when I say we have cultural issues, that's part of it.
Yeah.
You know, we will have to reorient it ourselves as to how we behave, really.
Yeah, Doreen, I said this morning that it seems like in recent times that traffic is everywhere at any time. But you do have peak hours. So it's going to be worse in the morning. It's going to be worse in the afternoon, people going home. What about staggered hours? So everybody go work for 8 o'clock. What happens if somebody will go 7 o'clock and then some go 8 o'clock? Will that help?
I mean, no, not really.
It won't.
That's a marginal issue, right? I think the bigger issue that we're talking about here, and he has described it as a cultural issue, and I completely disagree. This is a policy issue, right? So the government actually controls the kind of supply and demand of what he's talking about, right? So the reason why everyone aspires to a car and puts themselves in debt for a car is because that seems like the only viable option, right? Jamaicans don't have an aversion to public transportation. When we migrate, we take it all the time, right? So it really is a factor of a lack of investment in things like JUTC, in things like sidewalks and
to be clear, you're talking about quality of the service.
Exactly. That is
I
why
see
you don't
people
take
saying
it.
we don't want to. No, if the bus going come and late for work, or we're going and we're rubbing up on, you know what I mean? Is it the quality of the service?
Of course, the quality of the service, but that requires actual investment, right?
Gotcha.
And the reason why I keep on comparing the investment we are putting into something like widening roads, which, you know, we're still in traffic, despite the fact that so many of these roads have been expanded. Putting an investment like that, a really fundamental investment in public transportation, can get you to a point where you're at 7:05, you know your bus is coming outside.
Because I was just going to ask you, what does that look like? So if you invest and make these changes, ideally, what does that look like?
It looks like you can actually plan your life around a schedule that is reliable, safe, it's protected. You can ensure that you're traveling on the weekends, you're traveling late at night. JUTC is available for you. And it's not just a public transportation choice of last resort, right? It becomes a much more convenient one, right? And it's not just about making sure the buses are cleaner and better, but it's also making sure that they're faster, right? So a couple of years ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago, Neville, you were actually involved with an interview with someone from JUTC talking about a bus-only lane. It was a trial that happened that ended up, being cancelled. But with that bus-only lane, it's a protected bus-only lane, it means that that bus is able to travel much faster, much quicker, right? And that's a policy issue that the government can support, right? Changing the supply and demand. Because if a bus is much quicker than sitting in traffic in your car, lots of people are going to choose that.
Should we bring that back?
Of course. And lots of places are doing that, both in the global south, in the global north. Bus-only lanes are one of the most efficient sort of investments you can make to really transform your transportation system.
Stephen?
All right. I can't argue with her as it relates to the bus-only lane and that kind of thing, because that was not part of my brief. Had I been prepared for this, I would have, because we have had conversations about the bus-only lane and why is it that was discontinued. I am not prepared to go into that this morning. I don't want it to be seen as, because I've listened to her speaking and she's saying we need to do more of this and more of that. It is not JUTC versus NWA.
Agreed.
It is not more roads versus some policy directive. Our remit is to ensure that persons are able to get around. If you listen to the narrative just now, one may think there was no need, or there might have been no need to widen roads. And I'm saying from the get-go, everywhere you go, every metropolis, they recognize that is something that has to be done based on population growth, business development, and so on. So it is not a situation where roads are not to be widened, because if we were operating on roads that were built in 1940 or 1962, then we'd have been speaking about other things right here now.
Yeah.
All right. We have to go. By the way, Dorian, how you came here this morning?
I came here carpooled. You're not going to catch me.
Stephen, can we have you back to talk a little bit more about you know, what some of these answers are, and to talk a little bit more about the stuff that you said you weren't prepared to talk about this morning, because honestly, what is happening now in our country cannot keep, it's not sustainable, it's not productive, it's not, you know, so anything that we can discuss that can help us to move towards a solution is helpful. So can we do that, co-host?
Certainly. We have plans that we have spoken about prior, and some that we have not spoken about publicly. But you know, we don't have a difficulty. It is what we do, and we are prepared to share with the public, certainly.
Thanks, Stephen. Stay safe. Thanks, Doreen.
Thanks, Doreen.
Thanks for having me.
You're kind of ready for that question.
Doreen Duncan, Executive Director, City Planner, and founder of Island City Labs, and our friend Stephen Shaw, Communication and Customer Services, National Works Agency. Both our friends, actually. More on Smile after this break. We're back after these messages.
So come.